Hi friends, welcome back to the Saffron box. I'm Yamini, and today in this video I shall be talking about the upcoming conjunction of Mars and Rahu in the sign of Gemini. So as we all know that Rahu is in the sign of Gemini, transited there on the 7th of March, and Mars is currently into the sign of Taurus, and it will leave the sign of Taurus, move into Gemini on the 7th of May. So Mars and Rahu together there will be conjunct, and they will form an Angarak yoga over there. And while they are conjunct, this conjunction shall last till the 22nd of June. So it's a good period of about 45 days. Not a very long time, but a very powerful conjunction it's happening. So what is going to happen is we'll have Mercury joining in this conjunction in the month of May, and then Sun will also move in here. So there will be a point in time where from a 2-planet conjunction, that is Mars and Rahu conjunction, it will be a 3-planet conjunction, and then by the end of this period, when Sun transits on the 15th of June to the sign of Gemini, we will have a 4-planet conjunction. So we'll have Sun, Mercury, Mars and Rahu. And right opposite in the sign of Sagittarius, we anyways have Saturn and Ketu together, and they are going to be together till the month of Jan 2020. So that's another about 7 to 8 months to go. So this conjunction impacts the sign of Gemini very heavily. It also impacts the sign right opposite to it, that is Sagittarius. So in this video I shall be talking about the effect which this conjunction, which this very powerful conjunction is going to have on all the 12 lagnas. And you know, we are also going to see as to we will see this keeping in mind the natural horoscope. So if you study any conjunction, if you study any transit, keeping in mind the natural horoscope, that is the Kalpurush Kundli, it really helps. It helps you understand this better. So this entire video will be based on the effect on all the lagnas. So I am not talking about sun signs here, I am talking about your ascendant or your lagna. And you have to also see where the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius are falling in your chart. So that will help you understand the whole thing better. So if you talk about Aries, for Aries this conjunction is happening in your 3rd house. So 3rd house of efforts, 3rd house of siblings, your neighbors, your courage. It's the Parakram Bhava, and it rules over your communication. That's the natural house for Gemini. So over here when this conjunction comes up, one could see that since there are 2 malefics, that is Mars and Rahu together in your 3rd, one could see that there could be a amount of aggression in how you're communicating. How you're communicating in your group, how you're communicating with people around you, your friends, your neighbors, your siblings, especially the younger ones, because Mars represents your siblings also. So your siblings, you know, how is your communication with them? And it could happen that your communication gets a little rough, your communication gets a little you know, not so pleasant with them, and this could lead to conflict, this could lead to overall unpleasant situation. And there could also be chances where you just communicate impromptu, you do not give deliberate thought to how you're talking. So that could also land you into trouble. So you have to take care of that, because such things, you know, will have a long-term impact on how your reputation goes and how you're perceived by others. Also there could be chances of short journeys, and while you undertake these short journeys, you should be careful, you should drive safe, you should be careful, and do not, you know, take care of your health while you're traveling. Do not you know, overdo things, do not over exercise yourself. And there also could be chances that there are disagreements with your father. So Mars Rahu directly aspects the 9th house, and as we all know, Saturn and Ketu together are there in the 9th house in the sign of Sagittarius from quite some time, and they are going to be there for quite some time. So there could be disagreements with your father. And one thing which I would really like to say here is that while you travel, you should be really careful, because your travel, your short journeys or your long journeys get impacted. So for Aries, two things which you need to be really careful about is your communication, is your travel, and a relationship with your siblings, with your neighbors, with the immediate surrounding, with your father, right? Now moving on to the sign of Taurus. For Taurus, this conjunction is happening on the 2 and 8 axis. So Mars and Rahu are coming together in your second house of Vani, second house of speech, second house of family, wealth, right? And when Rahu comes here, it could happen that you end up saying something you don't mean, right? So Rahu, wherever Rahu is, Rahu creates some illusion, Rahu creates some smoky effect. So whatever you say is misunderstood by people, or you say something and it gets misquoted somewhere. So it is very important that you stay away from any kind of gossip, that you stay away from any kind of statements which could land you in trouble. So my advice would be that you speak less. It's better to speak less rather than speaking anything and then landing into trouble later. This is also a time where you should be very, very careful about how you handle your family matters, how you handle your wealth. So maybe you find that your siblings come and if there is some issue going on, if there is some case going on, litigation going on with regard to inheritance or something, you could also find that you come into an unpleasant situation with a sibling. So this entire time period is something which you have to guard against. So be very careful about your wealth, be very careful about, while you're traveling, be careful about your purse, about your wallet, about your belongings. And again, your speech has to be seen, as I mentioned earlier. So avoid any harsh speech, avoid any verbal fights with anyone, especially your siblings. Now, one thing which could also be impacted is that your second house is the house of it rules over the lower part of your jaw. So your teeth, your food taste, your tongue, everything comes under the second house. So there could be chances that you do not eat properly, or there could be chances of some dental trouble, there could be chances of some infection in the mouth. So be very careful about what you eat. So stay away from any tamasic food. And then we have Mars and Rahu together in the second house, which gives which increases the chances of you consuming something which is not good for you. So while these days people consume everything, it's very important that whatever you consume in moderation. So stay away from hot and spicy food, stay away from overindulgence in alcohol, etc. Then coming on to the sign of Gemini. For Gemini, all this is happening in the first house, in your Lagna. So Mars and Rahu, and then further on Mercury comes in, that is your ascendant lord, and then you have Sun, which is your third lord. So this is a very, very important time, and I would say that this is a time where you can actually encash this entire conjunction. You can actually capitalize on this time to your gain, to your advantage, because this will give a good boost to your confidence. Whenever Rahu comes into the Lagna in transit, or it actually gives a lot of boost to the whole personality. So sometimes chances are there that you feel overconfident, or you feel a little too aggressive, or you feel a little too assertive, right? So this is a time when you should guard against being too extreme in terms of your in terms of how you communicate yourself. But this could be a great time to push through things, to take initiative, because Sun coming in together, and then Mercury also, when it gets conjunct with Rahu, they are both friends, as we all know, and Rahu in a Aries sign, in the sign of Gemini, which is Mercury's sign, would actually do very well. So take that confidence boost, take it in the right stride and use it for the right purpose and in the right direction, right? So do not ruffle feathers of others unnecessarily. That is very important. So but at the same point in time, if we see your sixth lord, that is in your sixth house we have Scorpio, and Mars rules over your sixth house. So whenever the sixth lord comes into the lagna, there could be chances of injuries, of hospital trips, or something or the other. You cut yourself, you burn yourself, you injure yourself somewhere. So it's very, very important that you take care of sudden injuries, because there could be trips to hospital which are right there. I can see that. And Mars is also your 11th lord. So while the negative side is towards the health, you need to take care of your health, on the positive side it could happen that your 11th house significations. 11th house talks about your social circle, it talks about your desire fulfillment, right? It's the highest of the karma trine. So your desires get fulfilled, and how do they get fulfilled? Through the energy of Mars. So Mars puts in a lot of energy, a lot of gain comes from your social circle. You get very active in your social circle. So these are the kind of things which you can expect from this conjunction. Then we have the sign of Cancer. For Cancer, your 12 and 6 axis is getting impacted here. So you have in your 12th house, you will have this conjunction of Mars and Rahu with Sun and Mercury joining later. And then right opposite you have the 6th house. So 12th house is as we all know, the house of expenditure, the house of Vyay, right? So it could happen that a lot of your expenditure, your expenditure increases. And where does it increase? Sometimes you might just keep spending and you do not have a count of what what is finally left in your wallet. So you go out thinking that you might be just spending 2000 rupees, this is the expenditure which you are anticipating, but at the end of the day you end up spending 5000 or 6000 rupees. Right, so be very careful there, because or you might spend money on something which does not turn out to be very useful to you later, or you just might make any impulse purchase. So you need to be careful over there. Your siblings could also come in, you could spend on your siblings also. So these are certain things which you need to keep in mind. You could also take up travels. So there could be foreign elements, you could be traveling to foreign lands, you could be traveling abroad. So that is how all these things actually talk about expenditure. Then when Sun comes into this conjunction by the end of the whole time period, it could happen that you take a family trip outside, especially with the summer season, with the holiday season coming up. This may be a time period where you plan a family trip, and that again causes a lot of expenditure for you. So while expenditure is good, too much of wasteful expenditure is something which you should guard against. Also, those who are looking at migrating, or those who are looking at moving out of their motherland for work purpose or migrating to another country, this I feel could be a great time for you to put in more efforts towards achieving your goal, towards achieving your objective of moving out. And one thing which I feel that on the relationship front could get impacted is your relationship with your spouse, because 12th house, as we all know, is the bedroom, is the house of bed pleasures. Too much of energy there. So it could happen that there are fights, and those of you who are going through a rough patch in their marriage, I think this is a time where you need to be really, really careful and do not indulge in any kind of a physical fight also. So there could be a lot of physical aggression coming in, domestic violence, so to say. So all these kind of situations is something which you really, really need to be careful about and be very mindful there. Then we go on to the sign of Leo. For Leo, this I would say is a good conjunction. because this is coming into your 11th house, and your 11th house, as we say, the house of desire fulfillment, the house of Ichha Purti. It has Mars and Rahu now together here, and the ascendant lord, that is Sun, will also be joining in later. We'll have Mercury in its own house, in the house, in the 11th house. It will be Swagrahi over here. So this is a great conjunction because you could take up things where you initiate something, you take on some good work, social projects, group projects. If you're associated with NGOs or some humanitarian work, this could be a great time for you. You would also like a lot of limelight coming on to you. That is also something which will happen here, because Leo people anyways admire a lot of limelight on themselves. So this could be a period where you like to shine, where you like to go out, and you like to be the center of attention as well. So one thing which one needs to guard against over here is that while all this limelight is good, while all this initiative and all this hype about yourself is okay for some time, a false sense of pride should not come here. So that will again depend, because any transit or any conjunction which we study transit related has to be studied keeping in mind your dashas. So if you are undergoing a good dasha, the time period, the dasha, antardasha, the pratyantar is favorable for you, it's fine. But if you are not going through a very good dasha, you have to take care that you don't get into this trap of feeling all hyped about, right? Then coming on to the sign of Virgo. For Virgo, Rahu and Mars come together in your 10th house. So and as I mentioned, for the sign of Mercury, Rahu is a friend. So Rahu and Mercury coming together in your 10th house again puts a lot of emphasis, makes you put a lot of energy into your work, into your professional field. So professionally, growth wise, career wise, I feel this is a great time. But health wise, this does not look like a good time, because your 8th lord is coming there, and for Mercury Lagnas, Mars is not a good planet. So your 3rd lord, that is your Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio falls into your 3rd house, and then Aries comes into your 8th house. So 3rd and 8th, both the houses, they are not good for health, right? So the 8th lord coming into the 10th house could bring in health issues, but overall professionally, status wise, I feel this is a good time. You could actually see that your efforts are bearing fruit. And if you see, Sun is also transiting, Sun is going to be transiting from the sign of Aries to the sign of, it will come out from the sign of Aries very soon, and then it will move on to the sign of Taurus, then Gemini, and then further on to your 11th house, that is the sign of Cancer. So Sun is moving on through the brighter half of the horoscope. So that takes care of a lot of things over there. Now if we talk about the sign of Libra. For Libra, this conjunction happens in the 9th house and in the 3rd house, right? So Gemini falls into the 9th house for Libra, and that is where this conjunction comes up of Mars, Rahu, Mercury, and then further on Sun. So there could be chances that there is a lot of heated argument with your father, or you disagree, or you part ways with some guru. You disagree with your father on something. So any father or any guru like figure, there could be a lot of confusion and disagreements over there. So you need to be careful on that side. Also, those who are pursuing higher education, or those who are planning to move out for higher education, this could be a great time, because wherever Mars goes, you put in a lot of energy. So you'll be putting in a lot of energy towards moving out, towards trying to fructify your objectives. So this is a great time to put in efforts for higher education. And if we see for the Libra ascendant, Mars is the second lord and the seventh lord also. So a lot of it is good for money also, because Mars coming into the Bhagyasthan, and then Rahu again is a friend of the ascendant lord, that is Venus. So this could actually help you in increasing your accumulated wealth and putting in a lot of energy with your partner. So this could be good for your marriage also, it could be good for any kind of a partnership business also. But one thing which you need to be careful about is again long-term journeys, long-term travels, and while you travel long term, you should be careful about yourself. Take care of your health, take care of yourself while you're traveling while you're traveling towards long journeys, right? Now moving on to the sign of Scorpio. For Scorpio, this conjunction comes up in your 8th house, and for the 8th house, too many planets over there, that too malefics like Mars, Rahu, and then Sun and Mercury together. I would say that this is a very difficult conjunction for Scorpio people, because first of all, your 8th house gets crowded, so lot of and whichever planets come here have rulership of other houses in your chart, and all these planets coming together gradually falling into your 8th house could show difficulties in various areas of your life. And first of all, difficulties regarding health, because Mars, which is the ascendant lord, going into the 8th house itself shows that you could be dealing with health issues. These health issues could be difficult to diagnose, so you might be moving from one doctor to the other, one kind of medical help or medical advice to the other, and they become difficult to diagnose, they become difficult to treat for some time, at least till the time this conjunction lasts. And especially if you're going through a dasha of a trik bhava, if you're going through the dasha of the 6th, 8th or 12th, this could further complicate things. So for Scorpio, this is a little tough conjunction, first of all related to your health, and secondly you could be dealing with a lot of difficult issues here. So when we talk about 8th house, we talk about accidents, we talk about dealing with hidden things, we talk about obstacles in what you're doing. So you need to really keep your head above the water and really learn how to manage this coolly. So one thing which will really help you deal with the whole conjunction, the entire effect, is keeping a cool and composed mind and taking care of your health first of all. You could also be dealing with a lot of money issues, and when I talk about money, it's not your own money, it's your partner's money. So it could happen that you end up spending your spouse's money, you have to deal with your spouse's money. This could also be a time where inheritance matters could come up, so you deal with inheritance issues, and inheritance which comes with difficulty, inheritance which is not easy, which comes with difficulty, which you're not very clear about also, right? So a little difficult conjunction, and as I said, though this entire conjunction is happening only for a period of about 45 days, but these are two tamasic planets, two malefic planets, and these malefic energies, when they combine together, especially during the month of June, there will be a period of about 4 to 5 days when Mars and Rahu would be together in the same nakshatra. That is when one needs to be really careful about. Then moving on to the sign of Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, this conjunction is happening in your 7th house, the sign of Gemini, and you are anyways you are having Saturn and Ketu together in the 1st house, in the Lagna. So this entire conjunction, this entire time period talks about you and others. So you and your relationship with others, you and your relationship with, it could play out either way. It could play out with respect to you and your relationship with your spouse, you or your relationship with your business partner, or anyone who's right opposite you, whom you're dealing with very prominently right now. It could also be talking about any kind of an opposition, any kind of an enemy which is right in front of you, who's right in front of you, whom you know very well, whom you're dealing with every day. So, and this period requires a lot of tact, and you'll have to deal with this with a lot of tact and diplomacy, this entire conjunction. Relationships will actually play around here. But the good thing is that the fifth lord, Mars, is here. Mars is your fifth lord. It rules over Aries in the fifth house, and then Mars moving in here could bring in some relief, could bring in some relief in difficulties over here. Then we'll also have Sun, which is your ninth lord, moving into the seventh house. So these are all trinal lords moving into the angle, moving into the Kendra house, which again will be a good relief, a good time period for you to deal with it. Then this could also be a time where foreign travels come into the picture. So one could travel outside. There could be travel related to education. It could be an educational tour. It could be if you're engaged in some kind of a creative art, it could be related to that, right? Some of you who are in that age and stage could also be taking up any kind of a pilgrimage. So these kind of things play out for Sagittarius. But for Sagittarius, again, one thing which I would like to talk about is that whenever moon will transit, whenever moon transits your ascendant, and that will be a little difficult time, because your ascendant itself, the first house and the seventh house, the main two houses in the chart, first and seventh, the Kendra houses are getting impacted over here. So whenever moon transits the first house, you could be emotionally, you could feel drained out emotionally, dealing with a lot of things, dealing with a lot of soft issues, with a lot of relationships around you. So stay composed and stay calm, as I say. Then moving on to the sign of Capricorn. For Capricorn, your sixth house has this conjunction, and then right opposite you have your 12th house. So sixth house is about opposition, sixth house is about enemies, conflicts, litigation. Sixth house is your servants, pets. So all these things get activated, your energy goes there, and sixth house is also your relatives. So Mars Rahu conjunction here could bring in some trouble related to relatives. So either they come and they bring in some unnecessary trouble, they take away your time, they disturb your routine. Sixth house is the house of daily routine, your daily schedule. So there could be disturbances over there. You could be dealing with some litigation matters, and you could be dealing with some health issues. So this is a time where you deal with all this, but you come out victorious over all these troubles. So this time helps you in whatever was hiding till now comes out into the front. You deal with it and you just finish the matter and come out. So try to finish whatever is there bothering you, whatever is there you have to deal with on your plate. And this could be a time where you could use the energy of Mars to bring in discipline in your daily life. Maybe if you were lacking on fitness, if you were if you were thinking of starting a new exercise regime, some new routine, it could be just yoga, it could be exercise, it could be anything which you do to streamline your daily routine, your fitness levels, your health levels. You could use the energy of Mars to help you out over here. So when Mars comes in, Mars brings in a lot of energy, a lot of push, so you could motivate yourself. And Rahu here, so Mars and Rahu together, two malefics in the sixth house, really help you, they really help you go through any trouble or go through any difficulty with a lot of motivation and go within you. Then moving on to the sign of Aquarius. For Aquarius, this conjunction is happening in your fifth house. So your 5th house of Gemini has this Mars and Rahu conjunction with Sun and Mercury later. So when Mars and Rahu come in together in a nice trinal house for you, this could be a time period where misunderstandings, where confusions could be happening. Confusions with your children, misunderstanding with your children. So if you are, if you have grown up children and you're old enough, there could be misunderstandings over there. There could be misunderstandings also in your love relationships. So your love interest gets angry with you because of something, gets upset with you because of something. So handle all these things very carefully. Do not bring in a lot of aggression. Try to understand what is the other's point of view, and only then go ahead with any action further. Also, those of you who are in any creative pursuits, those who are dealing with any kind of a career where your creative interests are involved, you could put in a lot of energy in getting new projects, in getting new assignments for yourself. So Mars energy could be used there. Then Mars also rules the 10th house and the 3rd house in for Aquarius ascendant. So your this might be a time for change in profession, or maybe change in job. So if you were looking at any change of profile, when I talk about change in job, it does not necessarily mean that if you're working for company X, you move out of that and go to company Y. It could also happen that your job profile changes. So whatever you were doing, you may be shifted into a different vertical, you may be shifted into a different department. So some kind of a change happens at your workplace. Your boss moves out, right? So these kind of changes could be anticipated. Then but this is at the same point in time not a very great time period to indulge in any kind of a speculative activity, because 5th house is also the house of speculation. So do not get into any kind of a activity where you might win by fluke. So any chances, any risks which are involved, you should just avoid that totally. Why I am saying this is because Rahu is also present here, right? Then moving on to the last sign of the zodiac, that is the sign of Pisces. For Pisces, this conjunction comes in your 4th house. So you have Mars and Rahu together in the 4th. Mars rules over the 2nd house in your horoscope and the 9th house. So it's not a very bad conjunction though. This could be a time where there could be a change of residence, or you could be spending on renovation in your house. Those of you who are making some decision regarding buying a house, buying a property or some land, there could be some confusion over there. So you might feel that you're very unsure at the last moment as to whether you're taking the right decision or not. If you're feeling so, I think it's time to pen the decision for some time. Those of you who already have a house, those of you already living in their own house, own property, it's time to redo your interiors, or maybe something to do with renovation around your house, right? So this is also a time window where you should spend some time at home, spend time with your mother, spend time along with your spouse at home, right? So more than looking outwards, look inwards right now. So do things which satisfy your inner cravings, do things which give you inner peace. So put in your energy over there, right? So that is it about the 12 signs and how Mars and Rahu impact these 12 signs from the 7th of May when they come together till the 22nd of June when they finally split ways. And then this conjunction overall, if you look at it, it is not very common that so many malefics come together, and Mars, be it Rahu, be it Sun, they are all considered malefics. Mercury also for that matter, because Mercury takes the temperament of the planets it is dealing with, it is conjunct with. So more or less it absorbs the flavor of those planets. So this conjunction is to be watched out for. It could bring in a lot of sudden results. So that is something which one should be really careful about, especially towards the end of the conjunction, where the the fairy energy of sun also moves inside. So that is it about this conjunction. Keep watching. God bless you, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. Thank you so much. Bye bye.